the session. Thank you.
All right, we'll try this again. Since playing Ohio State the last time, what stands out most and how they look differently? Losing to Michigan, beating Tennessee, what's most different about this Ohio State team you're going to face on the first?
Yeah, I mean, every game has an identity, into itself. And obviously watching this most recent game, Ohio State played really well. They have a lot of strengths. They're really good on both sides of the ball and really good on special teams. So I think what you recognize when you watch the film is a team that has a lot of strengths, a team that's really talented and really good.
Coach, you've always been a big person about not just the physical aspects of the game, but the mental aspects of the game as well. You've usually visited by Tim Grover, Mike McCoy, like Brian. What was it like in that experience for you and for your team to be able to experience his words and what he got to say?
Yeah, Tim's a guy that I've become close to over the last couple of years. He does an unbelievable job, being able to deliver a message. I think he sees things black and white, which I certainly appreciate, and I'm glad that he was able to share a message with our team.
Coach, you talk about the momentum that you guys have generated coming into the #1 position in the nation. How do you maintain that? And what will be the ingredients to come out victorious against them?
Yeah, the way you maintain it is you win, right? And you do that by focus on each play, each moment, not making it bigger than it is, right? Just trying to make sure that you can maintain your focus on what your job is. Everybody has a job for the team, doing that job for your team, and if we do that, then things can go the right way.
And what do you think the Big Ten entered into the perception of it, having played through it, where are you now with that? Team goal there, you guys expect to do everything.
Yeah, first off, I had an outside looking in of the Big Ten. It was a conference that I had a lot of respect for. Obviously, some great teams. I think the history of this conference is unique and special, something that we were really excited to be a part of. And then I've been extremely impressed with the leadership, from Tony Petitti, the commissioner, and everybody, from that standpoint, as well as the opportunity to get to go play against, teams in some unbelievable venues. And all those things have been really rewarding. I think it is a physical conference. It's obviously one of the best conferences, if not the best conference in college football. So I'm glad that we get to be a part of it. And our goal is always just to play to our best, right? Don't focus on the result, but focus on the process. And if we're playing our best football, the rest takes care of itself. Yeah, I think to be able to play great football, regardless of conference, especially down the stretch, you got to have great size. You got to have great athleticism. We looked for guys that fit us from a character mold, and then also had those attributes, had size, speed, the ability to anchor in a conference that's a physical conference, and then, down the stretch when it matters the most.
Because you don't have to defend Dylan Gabriel as a team. How would you defend him if you were going against Dylan Gabriel?
I wouldn't tell you that. But Dylan's obviously an unbelievable player. I think he's a really hard player to defend because of the things that he can do, the decisions that he makes. The moments that he shows up in, pressure moments. I think that's where he shines the most, which is really important at that position. His poise and confidence in those moments, and then his trust in the guys around him.
As the program is continuing to accurately reach the staff,
Well, I think you hope that you can feel that pressure, right? If you're in moments like this, you're certainly going to feel pressure, right? And I think anybody that says they're not, they're lying. But that's what you want to coach towards. You want to be in positions where pressure is applied. And, Kirby said it before, but I agree with him. Pressure is a privilege, right? If you put yourself in position to where you're going to have pressure, that's something you have to be able to handle. And our team's handled it really well so far. I have to continue to do so down the stretch. Yeah, I'd probably say Jordan's leadership. Jordan obviously has been a great runner for us. He's taken advantage of a lot of moments. When the ball's been in his hands, he's played really well. The way he practices is the part that nobody gets to see. Jordan James practices extremely hard. He's the guy when the whistle blows at practice, he's going to run another 20 yards after that. He has the right mindset. He wants to come out there and work every day. He's not, even if he's dinged up, he's not the guy that's going to be on the sideline. So his availability and his leadership and then the way he practices, I think, really shows up for our team. Yeah, I think for our entire team, they were able to, incorporate, some rest and recovery, which is really big. But there's also a lot of work in there too, right? So, and he's the guy that's going to want to push, rather than resting and sleeping. He's not that guy. Yeah, I think there was talented players on our team here before, but I think we identified there's some areas that we wanted to continue to improve and get better, right? There's no secret that the best teams in college football have the best players, right? So you want to improve at every position, certainly defensive line, offensive line. I think a lot of that comes from competition, right? When there's one great player at a position, that player can be a really good player. But when you have two great players at a position, they push each other. They make each other better. And I think we have a lot more of that on our team than when we first got here. Yeah, I'm sure our players are aware of that. Say that one more time. I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Yeah, I'd say just in general, all of my coaching experience, I've leaned on it in different situations. It certainly prepared me for those moments.
So what's the process of picking the game uniforms each week? I mean, I know a lot of times when it comes to coaches wear, just what shows up in the locker, but how do you guys determine that?
Yeah, I couldn't answer that question. Kenny Farr, as our equipment manager, does an unbelievable job. I know he leans on our players, but I normally just give thumbs up or thumbs down, and I don't ever really give thumbs down. We talk about a ton of situations, that being one of them. So, we got to continue to adapt to what rules exist in college football and make sure you can take advantage of them when you have the opportunity.
You didn't have Jordan first time around against Ohio State. I mean, how much does he change what it is you do? We all know what a great player he is, but how does it change you guys structurally?
Well, I think you just said it, right? We all know he's a great player, so when we have him, we're at more full strength. And we have a lot of talented players at those positions, but it goes back to what I talked about, the competition it creates for us in practice and the ability to make sure that we're fresh in games, in critical moments. So when you have talented players like Jordan that can perform at a high level, and then have great players around them as well, that allows us to be our best.
And as a follow-up, how has Mateo progressed during the season? He's put up big numbers as well.
Yeah, anybody that's watched Mateo has realized we got a really special player there. And more than just a player, he's a great teammate, right? And the way he works every single day, I think people have a lot of trust in him when he's on the field. He's shown some versatility. I mean, I don't know if people recognize the amount of things that we ask Mateo to do. And really Tatum and Jordan, there's several guys in that same light that we ask them to do a lot of different things. They've done it extremely well this year. Yeah, great question. Our team's about growth, right? We hammer that a lot in our meetings. So I'd like to think there's a lot of things that we've improved on, since that moment. I don't know if there's one overall arching theme that you would look at and say, okay, this is where they've drastically changed, because I don't think that's what it's about. Growth comes in incremental pieces. But I think we've grown in a lot of areas. I think we've challenged ourselves to continue to change and adapt, based on the teams that we're playing. The amount of information that our players are able to handle, I think is probably one of the most stark differences in our team now compared to when I first got here, that there's no such thing as information overload for our guys. If we can give them a nugget that'll help them perform in the game, our guys are really able to absorb that really well. Yeah, a lot of repetition and a lot of work. We talk about playing the game as many times as you can before you play the game, right? So treating that walkthrough like it's a game, treating that film session like it's a game. Communicating in the meeting the same way you'll compete and communicate on the game field. And I think our guys do an unbelievable job of creating that. Yeah, there's a lot of moments, in those games that we could have been better. I think that's probably one of the biggest things I walk away with. Miss a field goal, botch snap. Probably an opportunity for me to be able to kick the ball down there when we're tight to the red area. Last time I think we scored 2 touchdowns and 5 trips to the red zone, so that's an area that we can certainly improve and be better. But ultimately, coming out with a victory in a tight game, I think that's, tells you a little bit about our team as well. But realizing there's some moments that we left out there and things that we can attack and improve on. Yeah, we have a 365-day calendar that's kind of always running, and I think the big thing for a coach is you have to be able to adapt, right? It's not always going to be the exact same, but we had a outline of what it would look like based on if we're in this game, outline of what it would look like based on if we were in a game earlier. So we have a lot of different plans that we're able to execute, and then being in position where you can adapt that plan based on the needs of your team. I think there's still a lot of similarities. Obviously there's talent across the board, and it's one of those teams where it's hard to take away a strength because they have strengths opposite of that strength, right? Obviously a really good run game, obviously great wideouts. Defensively they change it up quite a bit, make it tough on you as an opponent. So I think more than anything it's probably just accentuated what you've already seen, from their team. Yeah, I don't know that I necessarily look at it that way, but playing a team that you're familiar with, I mean, there's certainly some advantages too, but on the same note, they're familiar with us as well. So I think all that stuff kind of goes to the side. Okay. No golf for a long time right now.
Just went through your first year in the Big Ten. What are some of the differences
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the caliber of teams, I think people would point at that and say, okay, there's better teams in the Big Ten in comparison, but in reality, football's football. I think there were some great teams that, made the trip with us to this conference as well. So 2 strong conferences, 2 conferences that play good football. Obviously, one of them still around, right? And the thing you'd say about this conference is it does have a great variety of what success looks like, right? You can win in a lot of different ways in this conference. There's some teams that are ground and pound teams in this conference. There's some teams that throw the ball. There's a lot of different defensive schemes. So I think the variety more than anything sticks out, that you have to be able to prepare for different situations, different moments throughout the season when you play the teams in this conference. Yeah, I think excitement. When you get to play great teams, I think you're really pumped, right? And to be at this venue, the Rose Bowl, to play a team like Ohio State, I think that's what you coach for. Those are the moments that you want to be a part of.
when you think back to the last 2 years, some of the losses you guys have had, what did you learn from the head coach about kind of losing those games and translating that to
Yeah, I mean, a ton, right? If you're not learning, you're hurting yourself. So, ultimately, decision-making process, how you prepare your teams, there's a lot of pieces that I've adapted a little bit different just based on the team and where we're at. But I also think our team's in a lot different situation from, emotional maturity, and how we handle those moments. And like I said, our team's been about growth. I think that's really shown up this year. So we try to learn from those moments and adapt. Yeah.
How long do you get that feel? How long will it take for you?
Every team's different. Next year our team will be completely different as well. So I think the season tells that story, right? And throughout the season you continue to identify if your team's going to keep growing and adapting and changing.
The first matchup against Ohio State, things that were left out on the field there, it was a
Yeah, that's always the double-edged sword, right? I think a lot of it comes down to how confident you are in your plan. You look at that game, and there were some critical fourth downs that we converted that were huge for us, and then there were some that we left opportunities there on the board as well. So I think you have to assess every one of those individually, right, and make sure you understand how confident are you in what you're going to see from the opponent, how much success have you had in those schemes in practice, and then making sure you assess all those things as you go into the game.
Last question. To go back to that aggressive cheater, I think that's one of your strongest traits. You're not afraid to go for it, but you've seemingly matured this season and get a lot more success with your team and making execute this situation. How does that process evolve from like the first number of bits you against Washington and Oregon State to now, where it just seems like you know what you're going to do, you know you got your team prepared for success?
Well, I just say that the success works. So when it doesn't work, people let you know that it didn't work, and when it does work, people let you know that, hey, you're more mature now, right? But like we've gone for it on fourth down this year as well, and sometimes it's worked, sometimes it hasn't. In this last game that we played Ohio State, sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. So I don't really get caught up on what other people's opinions are. To me, it's about our process. Was our process right? And we try to be process oriented over results oriented. If we have a good process and it doesn't always work out right, sometimes you have to live with those results. But everything that in our program, we assess, the good and the bad, and what it's going to look like when you step out there on the field.
So you were just saying it's not about the results, but in a way it is about the results because you don't get the results in that compounds over time, and you have to relook at the process.
If the process was wrong, right? So like process would mean did the guy run the right route? Did we have what we thought was going to be able to be executed? Let's say you have one-on-one coverage. Did you get one-on-one coverage, right? So if the process was wrong, you go back and evaluate that. If the result's wrong, why was the result wrong? Was it a technique, right? Was it somebody not throwing the ball where it was supposed to be thrown? Did somebody execute within that? So I think you look at it all, right? It's not just a small lens. Did it work or not work, right? There's plays that have worked for us this season where the process wasn't great, right? And that was a great result, but that doesn't mean it was the right call.
Dan, we asked you a lot of things in media day about recruiting, and I didn't know that on top of mind right now. What have you learned in your years as a coach, like kind of about how to handle the learning landscape? It feels like every 6 months there's something fun.
Yeah, be ready to adapt. Right, be ready to change. It's not going to be the same 6 months from now as it is today. But communication rules all. Right, you need to make sure that. I think in this landscape, a lot of people make excuses. Ultimately, what you have to be able to do is make sure that you're not that team that's creating those excuses. That you're the team that's on the attack, looking for opportunities to improve your team.